Right, there we go. So now live on Facebook, we're live today with Jerry Lyons. He's a content creator for estate agents. So Jerry, for those who maybe don't know you in the industry, who are you? What do you do? How do you help estate agents?
Yeah. Hi, James. Thanks for having me on. So my background is in journalism. I was a journalist. I've been a journalist for about 16 years. About 8 years ago, started working with estate agents because a friend of mine in London had an agency. He needed a blog. So I wrote his blogs for him regularly. And then sort of one thing led to another. And I've been focusing on sort of estate agent content and PR, a bit of PR, but more content for probably 4 years, solely
Right.
focused on estate agents and their content. So right at the sort of start of when everyone was thinking, content, we need to get on it. Which I think, to be honest with you, I think only in the past 2 months, because of the coronavirus,
Yeah.
agents have really woken up to the power of content rather than what they've been doing with some of their stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So I mean, what are some of the biggest challenges that obviously in 4 years you've seen estate agents face with their content and their marketing that way?
So the challenge is, I'd probably say for the smaller agents, if they're doing their own content, obviously if there are sort of 5, 6, 7 offices and above, they might have somebody in their marketing team who does their content, which makes life a little bit easier. But for the smaller agents, it's probably time and obviously the skill, because there's skill involved in creating any sort of content. And also I think a little bit might be the will. So it's like the skill, the will, the time. But now I think a lot of them are realizing, waking up to the fact that they've got to have some sort of content. Um, Maybe the fear factor that could be holding them back, fear of saying the wrong thing, which is understandable, but there's easy ways around that. There's really easy ways around that. One of the ways that I always suggest to agents if they're starting off writing content or creating content is, I've got a little formula called HITS, which is
Right.
the H stands for helpful, the I stands for interesting, the T stands for targeted, so you're targeting the right audience, and the S stands for sustainable. So if they kind of stick to those four, that acronym, and follow that acronym, they're not going to go too far wrong, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, if it's so important to them and so going to be so important to their business and their brand and, getting their message out there to more people, why don't they create content? Why don't they want to do that? Because agents, they post their listings and say, we've just sold this house, but that's, their job as an estate agent, right, to sell and let properties. So why don't they, create content around those four areas that you just mentioned?
Um, well, the good ones do, in
Yeah.
fairness. I think the ones that really get it do, and they create a lot of community content, which is going to be one of the big trends we're going to see post coronavirus in
Oh,
every
definitely.
business.
Yeah.
Not just the state agency, but every business is going to have to be seen to be really community focused, because as big as the world is, coronavirus will make it smaller. This
Yeah.
seems to be the general stuff. All the stuff I'm reading, people are going to think, do I really need to go to that business meeting? Do I really need 3 holidays a year because of the environment and this sort of
Yeah.
stuff? So there is going to be a return to localism. So agents need to position themselves as the sort of the community hub, as it were, for content and for even for news. I've said it for a while. I think a great idea for estate agents is to create their own newsletters. But when I say newsletters, I mean proper newsletters, like reporting about the local nursery that's got a great Ofsted report, talking about what the even the crime rates in certain towns. That's pretty easy to find out, the crime rates. You just go onto something called police.uk, and you can find out the crime rates almost down to your street. So I think agents need to sort of take this opportunity to really think about their content, get involved with the community, and just start doing it. If something's holding them back now, in a year's time, they're almost going to be too late.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think they will miss the boat. And it's something I've been saying quite a lot recently. Is I've read and seen places where some agents are saying, "Oh, yeah, it's going to be fine because we're all going to be starting when lockdown's finished, or sorry, when lockdown's eased, we're all going to be on the starting line together."
Yeah. That's
But
not
that's a
true.
myth. That's a myth, James. I'm telling you. Because what will happen is the ones that have been active now are going to be much further ahead than the ones who are doing nothing. I was speaking to a guy this morning, and he said his rivals they've stopped even taking calls. So that's mental. So if you're not taking calls, you sure as hell ain't going to be doing content.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now's the time to get active. And if agents are not doing it, now's the time. Now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, if you're not creating content and taking calls at least, then you're probably not going to be here when the lockdown ends and when things go back to normal, because people are going to be so far ahead of you.
Yeah, I think I genuinely believe that to be the case, because I think now's the time to grab attention for the right reasons. And going back to the community stuff, if you're seen at the moment to be helping your community, people will remember that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, our local bakers, we did something with my business. We gave some money to the local bakers, and they went and made care home packages, you know, sausage rolls, treats,
Yeah,
blah, 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 like hampers. And they made up some hampers for the local care homes in the little town where I live. And from a PR perspective, that's just been massive for us. It's been really, really good PR, but it's also the right thing to do by your community. And
yeah,
people will remember that. You know, people will remember that. All this at the start of coronavirus, you probably saw it yourself. Agents were still trying to sell. You know, like,
yeah,
oh, do you want not a valuation, but online valuations or this or that? It was too early to sell. In crises, there's 3 phases of communication to follow. The first one is help. When a crisis happens, people are like, shit, what's going on? Don't know. You know, everyone's a bit scared, like we all were. We were living on Facebook, and like live feeds of our news were on all the time. So people needed help. We're now going into the hope phase, which is the next phase of the crisis communications. Now, with the hope phase, we can start talking a little bit more about what we do as businesses, whether it's a state agency, whether it's I don't know, car dealerships. Do you know what I mean? We focus on estate agents, the pair of us. So estate agents can say, well, you know, there's green shoots of positive news coming from across Europe, some other parts of the world. Obviously, Boris Johnson, this is what, Friday, the 1st of May, yesterday, he spoke about the sort of infection rate seeming to be
yeah,
plateaued, or almost under, I wouldn't say almost under control because I'm not a medical expert, but that was the impression I was picking up from. So the third phase is happiness. Now,
right.
the happiness phase is, imagine when the lockdown ends. I don't know about you, but I'm wearing a hat because my hair's gone mad. The first place
Yeah,
I'm going is the barbers. Trust me, the first place I'm running to, there'll be a queue. Like, it'd be like Black Friday.
for the barbers, yeah,
Yeah. But the happiness phase is when either lockdown is eased, when people start returning to a new normal. Things are never, I don't know what you think, but I don't think things will ever be the same.
no, I'll always like remember the like people have new ways of doing things. People remember that, like, some people may, like, I think it's like 7% of people work from home anyway. In most areas of the UK, it's probably like more like 20% now, because they either enjoy it so much, and some people may just go back to work because they don't enjoy it so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's going to be one of the big trends, isn't it? Um, with the working from home. I've given up the office. We had a serviced office until a month ago, but
Yeah,
then I spent a couple of weeks working here in our spare room, and just thought, well, you know what, I can work quite comfortably from here. It's obviously no commute, that sort of stuff. So yeah, they will be trends like that happen. And with that happiness phase, just to go back to the sort of third H out of the 3 H's, that happiness phase is when estate agents can almost go back to what they've been doing for the community. That goodwill is going to come with them. So that's going to follow with them for their content as well. So that's when they can start talking about the market, start maybe hitting people with a few stats, explaining what they're going to be doing post lockdown. After the lockdown. So post lockdown. I think one of the key things I was thinking about this morning actually was agents are going to have to show how clean they are.
right.
Like literally clean. Because when you go around, if I was to get somebody to come around and value our house now, but obviously not now, but in the future, I want them to observe any social distancing that we need to. I want them to be seen to be clean. So hand sanitizers, those slip-on things you put on your shoes, you know, when you go into somebody's
Yeah,
house
yeah,
with a nice carpet, those sort of things. Really following the health protocols, because that's bound to happen with the government taking us out of lockdown. They're bound to give us, or the NHS will, you know, some guidelines of what to do to sort of play safe and try and keep the lid on this horrible disease. So I think that's a big thing, agents, and that's something they should be thinking about now. Do you know what I mean? And that's content, because you can
yeah.
talk about what you're doing to
That's
be
true. Yeah,
clean in post lockdown. In one way, everything's content. I look at everything as potential content. Client of mine, brilliant guy, Luke St. Clair, up in Leicester.
yeah,
What they've done with their boards, have added the NHS, the rainbow that's really
Okay,
popular,
yeah.
to all their boards. So they've got all these. It's really clever. It's clever, but they were coming from the right place. They were doing it out of generosity and sort of gratitude for the NHS. But from a business perspective, it's very clever.
Yeah, sure.
People see those boards and think, "Oh, they must be good guys," and people want to deal with good guys. I know there's a lot of talk in the industry about estate agent industry about no like trust, and some people say, "Well, you don't have to like someone to use them."
Mm,
Really,
I
I
agree.
mean, let's say all things are equal. Let's say there's two of us in the room and I'm a dickhead. We're both very good at our jobs, but I'm a dickhead. You're not. But we're sort of like that. People can't really choose from us. They're always, always, always going to go with the one they like.
Yeah,
I
without a
mean,
doubt.
all things being equal, James, you're always going to choose the one you like rather than the one that you think's a bit of a knob. I
Yeah,
reckon.
that's true. That is true. I mean, you've touched on it quite a lot there, but aside from the community stuff, what would you recommend as an estate agent? Let's say I'm an estate agent right now. Aside
Yeah.
from the community initiatives and stuff, what content should I be posting right now on my social media?
Right now, because we're in that hope phase of communications, or we're just stepping into it, we
Yeah,
just kind of so still
I
offer help, yeah. But because we're in the hope phase, start talking about floating the idea in your content, something like so. After this, as during lockdown, you might realise your house is too big, your house is too small. You want to be nearer to your loved ones. What steps are you going to take to be in a position once the lockdown's lifted to sell your property? Just to come around stuff like I think it might be just a little bit too early to say how to prepare for selling your house after lockdown. Maybe I might be wrong there, but definitely you can do stuff like how to declutter. We've done that some content around that probably a month ago. um, and you've got to look at an interesting way to tell the same old story. So we could have went, oh, how to declutter in 5 steps. Bit boring. It's been done before. But we said, and we did this about a year ago as well with something else, was the Japanese way of decluttering, which is Marie Kondo, this woman who's very sort of like a decluttering sort of genius or whatever you want to say, call her expert. Let's call her expert. Let's not call her a genius. Um, Other things they could do is just talk about. There's not much to talk about in terms of what they're doing. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
like viewings and all that. So they might have online viewings, but I think it's now you start sort of talking about what the agency is doing to prepare for post lockdown. So, like I
yeah,
said, the clean protocol. How clean are they going to be? How are you going to show me that you're not going to bring germs into my house and make my daughter sick? That sort of stuff, or my family sick, or my loved one sick. The technology is massive now. Like what we're doing this on this StreamYard. I've never even heard of it until you told me yesterday. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
What technology agents are going to start using? Like 360 cameras. An agent of mine has just gone out and invested. I think it's about 2.5 grand on. I think it's Matterport, the cameras that
Oh
do
yeah,
the
yeah,
360. Because that's going to be a massive thing. Virtual viewings going to be huge because people aren't going to want to waste their time and risk their health because there's always going to be the fear of even when we get a vaccine. Until we get a vaccine for this, people are going to be worried. Some people more than others. So agents have to be really seen that they're taking this seriously because this is serious business. This is literally life or death. Like for some people, if they catch it, God knows. But for some people, and it's been shown. So agents are going to have to show what they're doing right now. If you talk about right now, tell us what your plans are for the future. How are you going to use technology? And you can do nice content around that. We're going to make people's lives easier by doing virtual viewings. And we're going to make people's lives safer by making sure you've got like clean protocol, like steps in place, um, and that sort of stuff. So there's stuff they can be doing, but just don't be selling at the moment. It's not like it's do you want a free valuation? Most people are saying, nah, mate, not at the moment.
yeah,
You're all right. you know.
yeah. I mean, yeah, one thing I did for an agent 10 days into lockdown was advertise an e-guide on, I think it's something like 5 ways you can prepare your home for sale during lockdown. And although it was great content, it was really useful. It was just a 6 page long e-guide. And they got some really cheap leads and some qualified leads as well. The problem with that is that we're now like 4 weeks later and there's no like consistent follow up to that because we've given them the information. If we gave them that information now, that'd be perfect because, you know, in a couple of
Yeah,
weeks or 3 weeks, we may come out of lockdown, but that was just too early. So it's like, I
yeah,
think that was in the, you know, that initial stage that you spoke about
yeah,
where you need to help people. It was helpful, but it was just little bit too early. Something like that
yeah,
right now would probably
yeah.
do even better.
Exactly 100%. That sort of thing now. Yeah, that's the right time. That's why I was saying to agents when this all happened. I used to work with a guy who done PR around 9/11, the financial crashes, the financial crash 2007, a big recession 1990s. He was like a mentor to me in PR. I never forget him telling me after, I think it was the London bombings in 2007, I think. I could be wrong about this year, so forgive me if I'm wrong. It might be 2005. But he told me about the three phases, and he's right. First one, people want help. You know, they want to know, listen, if you need us, we're here. We're here for you. And during this crisis, estate agents have been really good. A lot of estate agents, because they have sort of offered to help their community. Um, that was in the first stages, and now we're getting into hope. So that's when, like you said, that e-guide's kind of perfect. About now, next week, definitely. But the first phase is, and still offer. You should always help people if you can, especially if you're a community-based business like estate agency. So yeah, that I mean that sort of e-guide's good, and it's perfect. They should run it again. There's no,
Yeah,
there's,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But it
It's
was
about
just a
time.
little bit too early at that moment in time. I feel like because I didn't think the lockdown was going to go on for like so long, and
Yeah,
it was. There's no, you know, you can follow up with stuff, but you've given the value that people really need right now way too early. And
yeah,
yeah, the follow up in that was kind of difficult as the lockdown kind of goes
yeah,
on. But
yeah.
you
But
know,
I'd run it again. I'd run that
yeah,
again.
for sure,
Do you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
Because the thing is, with marketing, a good message is, you know, it sounds like it was good content. No reason not to run that again because the audience might be more receptive. And let's face it, it wasn't an offensive idea. It wasn't
Oh,
saying
not
like,
at all.
well, you should try and sell now. Blah, blah, blah. There's things to do after lockdown. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, in terms of the types of content that agents should create, you know, in terms of video, blog posts, written content for their social media or follow-ups and emails, you know, what kind of content is do you feel is most important? Should they cover all bases? You know, is it and you know, if they have to cover all bases with that, how can they really get into the routine and structure of that? Because that's quite a lot of content to have to create, especially if you've just got a small team.
yeah. That's a good question. Going back to that HITS method that I use, the S stands for sustainable. Now, I think agents, especially if they're just starting, they're taking content seriously, they need to do it in such a way they can sustain it. So you must see it yourself. I see loads of people who start content and go mad. So I'm going to do 4 blogs a week and I'm going
Yeah.
to do 6
Yeah.
posts a day and blah, 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 blah. A, they'll drive themselves mental, and
Yep.
B, they'll piss their audience off because they'll just be bombing them with too much stuff. So from sustainability wise, I think if it's an agent who's never done content before, maybe start with a blog or a vlog once a week. You know, something manageable that's not going to leave you feeling like a schmuck if you don't do it. In terms of video, I think you've got to be across video and written. Yeah. In terms of the platforms, obviously you're the man for Facebook, the likes of you and Paul Long and people like that, Chris K. Um, LinkedIn works well for landlords. It's always a good one to get your lettings content onto LinkedIn. If I'm honest with you, I think there will be a move towards destination content marketing. Now,
Okay.
by that, I mean, what was the example I was thinking of the other day? Right, so there's a guy called Peter Knight, runs the Property Academy. And
Okay.
every Monday morning, without fail, 7 o'clock in the morning, an email, which is always good content, will come to your email box. That's destination content because I know if I'm in front of my computer at 7 o'clock Monday morning, I'm going to read his content, his email out. I think agents need to sort of brand their content around that, perhaps. You know, like I don't know, pick a Tuesday and say, "Here's our Tuesday report."
Right.
We do a thing with my members of the Estate Agent Content Club, and it's Feel Good Friday. And it's really the last 6 weeks we've done it to try and cheer people up during this bloody nonsense. And it's done really well because people are now the audience it's Friday. We're probably going to get that Feel Good Friday article from Smith and Co. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So, one time if you do like email blasts and stuff, so it'd just be, one time, one place, and people know they're going to be conditioned, they're going to get this at this moment in time. As long as it's good content, it's engaging, it's valuable, it's interesting, there's no
yeah.
reason why they won't want to read that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Just make it helpful, make it interesting. Golden rule is not about you, it's about them. It's about their interest, not yours. I mean, all businesses are interested in getting new customers, but customers aren't necessarily interested in businesses.
Yeah.
It's your job to make them interested in your business.
Yeah.
Great, like case studies are like Innocent Smoothies. Who else? The Dollar Shave Club. They're very good at content. If you look at, because I think that's the thing sometimes in this industry, and we kind of look too much at what people are doing within the industry for inspiration.
Yeah.
When if we looked outside, we'd probably get new ideas, and new
Oh yeah.
ideas create new audiences.
Definitely.
You know
Definitely.
what I mean?
Yeah. What are some of the benefits then? We touched on this a little bit earlier. What are some of the major benefits of, really doubling down your content now and mastering that kind of structure, that strategy, and the the four kind of the hits principles, and really
Yeah.
mastering those and getting those ready right now during lockdown? What are going to be the long-term benefits to your business compared to somebody who doesn't do that and just stays stuck in their ways?
Right. Right. So if you think, right, of all the people, lots of people have come out of the woodwork and are doing content, social media marketing now,
Yeah.
yeah, in a state agency. It's harder for them to play catch up with the likes of a Chris Watkin or to some degree myself or Paul Long or John Paul. Do you know these
Yeah.
people that have been at it
Been
and
about,
Sally
yeah.
Lawson, those sort of people? I'm not saying they can't catch up because listen, there's always room for a good new one. Some people say, "Oh, there's too many estate agents." There's always room for an exceptional one in any business. I used to run a removal business back in the day, and I remember somebody saying to me, where we were in London, there were 150 removal companies in the
Yeah.
Yellow Pages. You won't remember the Yellow Pages. You're a bit of a young fella.
I do actually remember
Yeah,
those.
really.
Yeah.
It's about that big now. It's like a pack of Rizzlers. It's tiny. um, But the Yellow Pages, there's 160, and a guy said to me, "Well, you're never going to do well there because there's 160 businesses, removal businesses." And I remember my dad saying, "Yeah, there's 160, but there's not 160 good ones." That's like how many estate agents in the country? I don't know, 24,000 offices, something like that, or
Something like that.
15,000 brands. How many of them are good? Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
good ones are probably doing content marketing now. If they're not, they'll be smart enough to think we need to go and get ready. And you talk about the benefits for companies doing it. You're just going to be seen, especially now at a time when, like we said about this agency that ain't even answering their phones, while
Yeah.
other agencies are producing how-to vlogs for I don't know, all helpful content like homeschooling stuff and just keeping in front of their audience. Do you know what I mean? Because it's very hard to play catch up. I'll
Yeah.
give you a good example about that, about the importance of being seen. In 1990, there was I think, or 1991, there was a recession. Nike and Reebok went into the recession at the same time, obviously, but Reebok were miles ahead with market share of Nike.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah. This is amazing because now we think of Nike as Nike. It was Reebok. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Reebok were miles ahead in terms of market share, capitalization, all that sort of stuff. But Reebok said during this recession, we're gonna cut everything. We're gonna cut all our marketing, cut all our advertising. We're just gonna play safe.
Yeah.
Nike, very smart, very ballsy. They upped their game. So while Reebok went like that, Nike said, "No, we're going to spend more." And when they came out of the recession, brand awareness, which is all important, Nike were miles ahead of Reebok in just the space of, I think, 18-month recession. But Reebok never got that. They never caught up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on a much smaller level, that's why it's so important for agents to keep being seen, getting good content out there that helps their audiences.
Yeah, I think it's the same with Kellogg's in the Great Depression. Like everybody knows who Kellogg's are, the cereal brand now. Like so many cereals are, if you look on the back of the boxes, by Kellogg's. But in
Yeah.
1929, so the Great Depression, they were a very, very small company in America. And all the cereals, like they were suffering because like the farmers couldn't afford trucks or what have you and stuff. And they cut their marketing. And Kellogg's just really upped their game, and they were just seen on billboards, flyers, everything they could do at that moment in time. They were everywhere. And now
Yeah.
they've pretty much taken over the cereal game, right? Everything's pretty much
Yeah.
Kellogg's.
I didn't know that about Kellogg's. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Coca-Cola, I think, did something similar in one of the world wars. Forgive me, I should bloody know this, but they took the opportunities that were there to create factories and raise their brand. In a war, there's no bigger crisis than a war.
no,
Um, but in many ways, this is kind of like a war. You know, we have this killer virus.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it's really important for agents to be seen, because it's going to be so hard to play catch up.
yeah, for sure,
Do you know what I mean?
for
Do
sure.
you know what I mean?
And,
If put it this way, right? If me and you went for a run, and I say, you know what, James, I'm going to run to your house, and I live 15 minutes away from you. I run, I'm warmed up, I knock on the door, say, come on, James, get your trainers on, let's go. It's going to be much harder for you to go from zero to catch up to where I've been warmed up to, or vice versa.
yeah,
But don't worry, you could outrun me anyway, so don't worry. But that's the analogy, you know.
yeah.
It's very hard to warm up, and it's almost impossible to play catch up against a good opponent.
Yeah, you've got that momentum, and you're firing on all cylinders. People are just
Exactly,
it's gonna take you time
exactly,
to build that up.
exactly.
So, yeah, just some final pointers here. What if there was anything you could really drill into agents' heads, right, and then make it stick in terms of content and then marketing, what would that be?
Focus it around your audience, not you.
Yeah,
You know, make it all about your audience content, because content isn't advertising. People say, "Oh yeah, I've done an
yeah,
advert." Content. It's not. It's not. Content's been around since one of the first people to ever use content was Benjamin Franklin, the US
right,
politician,
yeah,
and he had a pamphlet called something like Old Richard's Almanac, and he had a printing business. And this little newsletter, nothing to do with his business. It was all like helpful information and the news and that sort of stuff. And that's 1800s, 1700s. So it's been around for ages. So good content helps the audience. Is about the audience,
yeah.
and always has been. So yeah, I'd say make it about you, make it about them. It's not about you, it's about them.
Cool, awesome. So, Jerry, where can people find you? Right, I know you've just released an A to Z of content for agents you're in
Oh
love
yeah,
with.
yeah.
Where can they get that? Where can they find you on social media, your website for etc. and your business?
Yeah. Just head over to www.estateagentcontent.co.uk. Estate agent content, and download the guide. My email address is, or I'll find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Yeah, if they want to have a chat, it's cool.
Awesome, nice one. Thanks for coming on. It's been
Yeah, no
it's been
worries.
really interesting. It's been great.
Cool.